We're back. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the TED Show. Last show of Election Day 2020. How are you guys feeling? Well, I know most of you are stressed out because I have gotten the text messages and the calls. People are super stressed out. They're worried about the outcome. And then if they're not worried about the outcome, they're worried about the outcome of the outcome. And so there's a lot of stress going on. So Kendra and I wanted to bring you a show where we talk about coping with stress, and that can be your personal stress, your global stress, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. And who better to do that with than the one and only beautiful hair, looking amazing, Kendra Davies, Stellar Life Coaching. What's happening, Kendra?
Hello, everybody.
Very happy to have you on today. I think really, I do believe people are super stressed out, like we said before we went live. And I think that they are either hoping for the best, expecting the worst, whatever that means in your world. I know you're stressed out about it. And so we're going to try to give you some coping skills today. But before we do that, anybody who apparently has been living under a rock who doesn't know who you are, Kendra, tell us a little bit about you. I know. I don't know.
My name is Kendra Davies, and I am a positive psychology practitioner and a life coach. I own Stellar Life Coaching here in Orlando, Florida, and I help my clients identify, define, and cultivate their own happiness and live their most authentic lives.
Well, I like this tagline. It reminds me of BNI groups I used to go to at 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't hear what they said. That one would have caught my attention. But in all honesty, if you haven't listened to Kendra when she's on the show, it is all about giving you all some positive skills, some positive coping mechanisms. And it doesn't have to be coping, it could be anything, but we want to try to help you and put some things, tools in your arsenal so that you can deal with the day-to-day life. So let's talk about stress a little bit. I think everybody defines stress differently. We react to it differently, and I think I react to it depending on the situation. But a lot of us, we say we handle it, but we don't. So let's talk a little bit about coping. What's your thoughts there?
So I think first and foremost, like being able to differentiate like code level red, DEFCON 5 stress versus like regular stress, especially in the time of COVID. I find that people are experiencing that DEFCON 5 stress far more than they realize, and they're trying to apply coping skills that work for low level everyday things, like I'm super busy and I'm trying to work-life balance, so I meditate for 5 minutes, and they're doing that to deal with this larger stress. Correct. And it just requires a bit more actual coping and going in and getting a deeper understanding and building your self-awareness. I think that it requires us to learn to differentiate between the two, and ways that you can tell when you are going from your regular everyday stress to like that DEFCON 5 is when you start recognizing that there's temperament changes. Either you're becoming apathetic, or you go to the other end of the spectrum where you're losing your shit on the baristas at Starbucks, right?
My kids, my daughter asks me if I'm on the brim sometimes, because she can sense when something might push me over the edge. Now, I might not be feeling it, but I think you're right. Yeah, I've seen people when they lose their shit on a barista or pick somebody, and it has nothing really to do with that person.
Exactly. So like those temperament changes, sleep changes, if you're normally a fit and active person and you find that you are choosing on your own to disengage from those activities, if you find that choosing the cookie over the salad is a harder and harder choice for you, when in the past it hasn't been, right? Or even vice versa, where, maybe you don't have good eating habits, but you find that you're going in harder and harder on the foods that are not good for you. Yes. Basically, it's when your decision-making functions have been so overwhelmed because you are in a constant stress state in your brain that you don't have the reserves to make healthy, positive decisions for yourself. This affects your sleep. This
I
affects
love
the
that.
water you drink, how much food you eat, what kind of food you eat. Do you exercise? Do you not exercise? Are you choosing disconnection over connection? Are you choosing your iPad, and are you choosing Netflix instead of choosing playtime with your kid or going for a walk in the evening? These kinds of changes can be symptomatic of that stronger, more DEFCON 5 kind of stress. And being able to differentiate that is important because you need different coping mechanisms for these two different kinds of stress. And the world right now is living and
I
operating
mean,
in this
it is
DEFCON 5 space. You know,
something.
if it was a spectrum and this is DEFCON 5 over here, we're like right here.
Woo, we're there. And why? So let's talk a little bit about that. I had somebody, when I posted the show, they reached out to me like they usually do and said, why is everybody so stressed out about this? And I thought, well, for a lot of people, a lot is riding on the election, depending on, I'll use the election. And you're right, you can't use the same thing you deal with you have got 10 messages to return. It's not the same as globally what's going on. And then there are some people that say, well, globally is not my responsibility, so I'm not going to stress about it. Or globally is my responsibility, so I'm going to take it all on.
Mm-hmm.
How do we find the balance? How do we figure out those tools to understand that one thing is not the same, and so you have to use different tools to cope?
Well, I think that we have to zoom in for ourselves. Like you said before, everybody defines this differently, and we also have different stress thresholds, right? Like I might be able to shoulder more stress and a tolerance for discomfort and pain than the average person when it comes to dealing with stress. So I think that it really comes down to understanding who you are and how that stress affects you. To me, I don't know. You can call it global issues, you can call it those things, but I feel like even when it wasn't a tumultuous time in the whole world, we can still experience the same kind of stress. Like your brain and your body don't differentiate. The brain doesn't say, ooh, Donald Trump or Biden. Nobody,
Right.
your brain doesn't do that. You logically do it, but the brain itself does not. And our stress response is autonomic, meaning that we don't choose it. It is something we experience in and of itself. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So
totally.
that we name on the outside aren't what matter. That's why I didn't start with, is the world on fire? Because that doesn't matter. It's really what you feel inside of you.
So if I'm feeling right now, my life is going to be over if one or the other wins.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do when let's say the outcome doesn't go my way? What can I do to help mitigate that? What are some things? This is on a global level. My coping skills for returning messages are not working, and I don't know what to do to get rid of this or to address this anxiety and stress that I'm feeling over the election.
So my first thing, and it doesn't matter who wins, I don't think it relies on the election. I think that we need to be able to break stress down into its smaller parts, right?
Yes.
Like, we use stress as this broad term, but underneath that stress is like, I'm afraid of what the world will be. Like, it's not that I am dramatic and I think my world will end if one president wins versus the other. It is the difference of thinking of beliefs and how powerful beliefs are. I don't just believe that. I'm fearful for my child. I'm fearful for my cousins. I'm fearful for my grandparents. You know what I mean? Like, it is not being dramatic. It is an actual experience where when we have these beliefs, no matter what we believe, that our bodies digest that information and it becomes a reality. So first and foremost, I think you have to be able to identify what is beyond the stress. Stress is such a broad term that underneath that is fear, disappointment, despair, anguish. Sometimes it's awe, sometimes the experience of like humanity, it can feel like stress. It can cause that same thing because we just don't have the capacity to host the idea in our mind that something could be so beautiful or glorious, right?
Yes.
So being able to pinpoint the emotions that are beneath the stress is step one. Because if I just go in and I just say my body hurts, that's not clear, right? I want to say my arm hurts. It hurts here. Yes, it is this specific thing. And when we do that, we can begin to work on the specific challenges that come up with each one.
That's so good, because I think people, they're listening to, and then we had this question. They're listening to the media. I love my media friends, but what happens is you can be in a really good place and then all of a sudden you turn on something, you go to social media, you turn on the news, whatever it is where you're fed information, I'll put that in quotes. And then all of a sudden your mood changes. The whole world's over. We're going to go to Handmaid's Tale. If I heard that, I've heard that a million times, right? Or the whole world's over, and all of this positive stuff that's happened in the last 4 years is, I'm going to lose my job. I'm losing everything. And so you begin to embrace, almost kind of take it in. You're taking all of this added stress in because you're listening to a lot of outside influences. How do we get past that? How do we kind of differentiate and go, all right, I'm going to listen to that news, but I'm also going to allow myself to make my own decisions and feel the things that I feel without being told how I'm supposed to feel?
Yeah. So I feel like breaking up what you just said is a bit beyond.
You mean I asked a lot of questions in one sentence? Say it isn't so. I'm sorry.
So, but here's the bottom line. I distill all this down to like brass tacks, which is that if
Good.
you are feeling stressed, name it. And then we need to be able to focus in here. When we think about stress, when you actually start to identify the feelings, like if I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling anguish, I'm feeling despair, 9 times out of 10, the thing isn't present right now in this moment. It is the thing that I'm afraid of tomorrow, or at 8 p.m. today, or 20 minutes from now, or the thing that happened a week ago, or the thing that happened 5 years ago, right? When we can hone into this moment and we can practice this sense of mindfulness and just sit in this moment and find it, and we can see that we are okay. The world is hard. Decisions are being made. This is fucking difficult. Yes? Yes. It is not about denying that something is hard. It is laser focusing in, focusing on our breath, focusing on our bodies, focusing on this moment, and recognizing that we are okay. And then when you're ready to solutionize, when you're ready to find answers, when you're ready to take action, then it's time to focus in on what you can do. No matter what happens today, you will wake up tomorrow and you will be you. You will not wake up a different person. You will be you. What are your values? What matters to you? Focusing in on that, because the way you choose to live is the only thing that you can control. That's it. That's it.
So I wake up tomorrow and then I go, oh my,
going into the future.
yes. So that's what people do, though. I have people who reached out. I think I said this before we went live. A whole bunch of people said, I can't believe you're going out today, Ted. Because in their minds, they have already anticipated that their worlds are going to be tumultuous, riotous. All of those ISIS words are going to happen to them. And somehow, in some way, shape, or form, even though they're not in the midst of the riot or the insanity, they're taking it on and they're going to let it impact their evening, their day, their week, how they wake up. You and I both know that they're going to wake up tomorrow and they get to make a choice at that moment. But in their minds, they have no choice. Somebody's told them it's going to be a mess, and that's what they're going with. How do we help people get past that?
So, and I think, I said it before.
Do you want to kill me today because I'm asking lots of ethereal questions?
No, I don't think it's that. I think at the end of the day, I was talking about this morning with a client. The reality is that beliefs are huge. They're huge. They're the driving force behind everything that we do. The stress that we feel is a cause of our beliefs. Do you understand? So if I
Yeah.
believe that the world is a dumpster fire and everything is going to melt down no matter what, or if this happens, if that happens, one, I'm not in the present moment. So I'm gonna suggest that you bring yourself back to this moment, because living there does not serve you here. So I'm gonna ask you to come back. The other thing is that when we're talking about people dealing with their stress, I have clients who don't want to leave their houses, who do believe that the end is near, who are fearful of civil war. I don't think that they're crazy. I don't think that they're letting anything get to them. I think that beliefs are powerful.
Yes.
When you believe something so deeply, it affects the way you behave. It affects the decisions that you make. So I don't believe that anybody is letting anything keep them from living. I think that they're making choices based on their beliefs.
So
And
good.
the ability to cope with stress is the same, no matter how you cut that cake. Whether you are hunkering down for civil war, or if you are out there living your best life in the crowd, match, like whatever your jam is, right? Like whatever your jam is, you are operating off of beliefs. And whatever those beliefs are going to be the cause and the thing behind your stress and your joy and your elation at the end of this deal, right? But no matter what, you will wake up tomorrow and you will still be you, and your children will still be your children, and your job will hopefully still be your job. And like, we are going to have to work in the world and work in our lives and figure out how to operate and still function. And that requires us to be able to be in this moment.
I like being in the moment because I think that, do I believe that there's going to be a whole bunch of unrest for a while? I do. That's my belief, right? How I respond to that, choose to respond to that, is on me. So I can believe that it's going to be crazy. I do. I believe that there's going to be all sorts of upset, angry people no matter what happens. And I can either choose to embrace that and then just let it take me over, or I can choose to go, all right, like Kendra said, I'm still going to wake up me tomorrow. I'm still going to wake up with my kids, in my case, my job. And I want to focus on that because that's something that I feel like I can do.
Yeah.
I can't control the outcome of the election. I can't control how people react to the outcome of the election. What I can control is how I deal with it moment to moment and how I see my life in that whole scheme of things. But I feel like we like to, as a whole, take on. I have people that thrive on chaos.
Yeah.
They love that chaos. They want it. Oh my God, the more chaotic and more insane, the better for them.
But you know what? I feel like even that is part of our stress response. Our brains, our bodies, our nervous systems are completely tripwired over and over again. We are over-caffeinated. We are from the caffeine, a lack of sleep, technology ruling our lives. I went to the optometrist today. My eyes are terrible. Yeah. And he was like, I can't believe this, but your eyes got worse. He was like, you might want to do LASIK just so it doesn't get so bad that you can't wear contact lenses. I was like, what? Like, things are going to happen. Like, this is going to get hard. You know what I mean? But like, our stress response, this choosing to have the tripwires and the chaos and the things, when we are choosing to disconnect, we're going to feed off of that. We are over caffeinated. We're overworked. Our technology is taking over. It's affecting my fucking eyes. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
I've had this same prescription for 27 years. And in 8 months, COVID-19 made my prescription a whole point worse, right? Because I'm on the screen all the time. This is what's happening. But this is happening to all of us, right? And so here's the deal. at the end of the day, I want to choose to hold enough space. If you feel like you have to hunker down, I want you to know that I love you. And if you feel like you need to go out there and live your best life and you don't want to live your life afraid, I love you too. I think that there's enough of these beliefs. Those
Yes.
are the truths. The reality is no matter what you believe, you're going to get fed information that validates your ideas. So it doesn't matter what your ideas are. The universal experience of stress is not good for your body, for your brain, for your nervous system, for your family, for your work, for this election, for anything. Like, it's just not. So honestly, if you really want to learn to cope with the stress, to actually cope, we can't get into the details of like the chaos and all of that. Like, it's talking about the trash. Because if it wasn't the election, it would be something else. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
It's part of our existence. And in the world right now, especially, this is part of it. We have to be able to identify how we feel, focus our minds on the present moment, and realize that this is the only thing that we have ever had. The illusion that we can change the future is nonsensical. We have this moment. Who am I? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What do I believe is good and true? Am I living that? Am I showing up into the world that particular way? And I don't care if you're not going into stores, if you're still Instacarting. Are you kind to your delivery person? Do you smile and have positive body posture when you jump on that Zoom call? Like, are you showing up in the world in your values? If we can focus in on that, then we are going to be able to start coping a little bit better. We can start recognizing those little things that we can control. You can vote. You can volunteer. You can donate. You can be an ally. You can be an advocate. You can do a lot of things. Stress is something that happens and it takes over our brains. And that voice says, I'm powerless. I won't affect change. Can't make a difference. That is that stress response.
Yes.
We can calm it down. If we can, if anybody has ever done any workshop or been to any of my talks, I have this quote, and it's basically like the root of all the work that I do. And it's by Viktor Frankl. And I'm not going to give it to you word for word, but from his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about the distance, the space between stimulus and response. Yeah. That's where we make our choice. And that choice is our freedom. To me, when we learn to cope with stress, we create more space between stimulus and response. That's the whole goal. Create more space between stimulus and response. That's what coping is. And the more self-awareness I have and the more I understand and can delineate between regular everyday, like I got 10 messages to return, and then like, holy shit, DEFCON 5, the world is burning and I'm terrified. Like, when I can learn to separate these two things, acknowledge the difference that it makes in my body and how it feels and how I'm interacting with the world, and then stop. Do not keep going. Do not keep trying to force the square peg into the round hole. Pause, stop, breathe. Do a meditation, do some breath work. Find something to calm your nervous system, right? That negative energy needs to be grounded and you need to be brought back into the body so you can actually begin to do it. There's research that talks about meditation, how when we do it, yeah, and I believe it was like 15 minutes or less, like 3 times a week in a meditation practice. You cannot stop your autonomic stress response, but when you have the stress response, you release cortisol in your brain. And when we actually practice meditation consistently, 3 times a week for 15 minutes or less, 3 times a week for 30 days, we can actually change the amount of cortisol that gets released with our stress response. That is huge.
It's ginormous.
Yeah.
I think that people, first of all, I love all of your advice because I think people are really I feel like people in general do want to find a way to be calmer and less reactive and more proactive. I feel like people really do look for the coping skills But you can't just, you can get them by reading, but you have to figure out, like Kendra's saying, it takes a practice. She's practicing meditation, let's say 3 times a week, 15 minutes a day for 30 days, and it actually changes the cortisol that goes into your body. You have to do things like that. It can't just be, oh, I watched Kendra on the TED show. Now I'm miraculously morphed into this new stress-free person. You have to work at it. We all work at it. Kendra and I both get stressed out, pissed off, angry, mad, hurt, sad. All of these things happen to our bodies and our minds and our souls on a daily basis. And then you just kind of have to learn the best way for you to deal with it. The problem is that a lot of people just go with the old flow and wonder why they're still miserable, stressed out, stroke oriented, heart attack oriented. And so there's just a lot of tools which we will bring back because we're running out of time.
Can I say one more thing that I think
it's your show. You say whatever you want.
Aw, Ted.
You know it is. I'm just here for the ride.
So honestly, I want to just say, somebody, not all of our lives are going to be as impacted as others, right? So for this election, it is important to, I think, recognize when our lives are not going to be as affected as our brothers and sisters of color. They're not going to be as affected as our LGBTQ plus community. And I feel like I know that as I sit here and I say, be mindful, know that you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're still going to be you. I know that on the surface that can feel dismissive, but I want you to know that it absolutely 100% is not. Whatever the future holds, whatever it comes, we're in it together. And the more mindful and connected we can be and less shut down, like breaking open despite all of this, I recognize that my life is not going to be as affected as you. But you are loved, you are not alone, and no matter what the outcome is, there are people rallying for change who see you and want to support you too. So I don't want it to feel like it's dismissive or like you shouldn't be stressed or scared. I don't want you to feel that at all from anything that is said today. I want you to know that you're loved no matter what, and that if you are feeling stress, there is a way to cope, no matter where you're at, what you believe, and what is coming down the pipe for us.
See, this is why you want Kendra Davies with Stellar Life Coaching. I love these segues. To be your coach, your positivity coach, your life coach, because I think that's dead on. We're not, nobody is trying to say you shouldn't feel the way you feel, because you're going to feel that way. And you're absolutely right. The impact on me is going to be completely different than those groups and many more that you spoke about. So we love you guys, we do, and we do hear you, which is why we try to have shows like this, because we want you to know you're not, what you're feeling, you're not alone, and you're also not unique in it. And that is a good thing, because that means other people are feeling it. You're not going through it by yourself. And it's just so important for you to know that you're embraced and loved. I agree. All right, stellarlifecoaching.com, the one and only Kendra Davies with Stellar Life Coaching. That was beautiful and amazing, and I loved every second of it. Thank you for sharing that. Really, really good stuff.
Thank you.
We love you guys. Reach out to Kendra if you need her. Reach out to me if you need me. I know it's going to be an interesting couple of days, certainly this evening. Just know that there are people here who support you and love you, and we want to be there for you. And your feelings are not bad. You just have to find some way to figure out how you're going to cope with the stress, and we want to help you out. So there you go. We love you guys. Have a good night. We'll see you back here next week with Kendra Davies. Bye, guys.